In the previous episode, we discussed the origin of Maoism and that Maoism, as a third and higher stage of Marxism, began in the 1980s and early 1990s, being initially synthesized by the Communist Party of Peru and the Revolutionary Internationalist Movement. However, there is some disagreement on when precisely this came to be. For example, the Communist Party of the Philippines holds that Marxism-Leninism Maoism began once the universally applicable principles of Mao Zedong thought became applied outside of the Chinese context, with the first and second Great Rectification movements of the CPP occurring in the late 1960s and early 1970s. In Malaysia, the North Kalimantan Communist Party of Northern Borneo declared fidelity to Marxism-Leninism Maoism in 1969. However, many Maoists would agree that if there was to be a precise date in which Maoism officially began, it would be with the pamphlet Long Live Marxism-Leninism Maoism, published by the Revolutionary Internationalist Movement in their publication A World to Win. Regardless of when precisely this synthesis began, it must be understood that Maoism, as a third and higher stage of Marxism, is a relatively new horizon of revolutionary theory, and has yet to emerge as a fully illuminated model due to the fact that Maoism has yet to establish a world historic revolution, to fully demarcate the way forward unto socialism in an exact manner. Like any new field of science, questions remain as to the specific applications of Maoist theory and which tactics should be applied and where. A great degree of experimentation is required to test this new model as it emerges onto the world-class struggle. Maoism, as a revolutionary science, is the entire summation and experiential knowledge of the class struggle as it occurred throughout history, and the class struggle itself is the laboratory of this science. This is a fundamental oversight made by the post-Maoist tendencies who view Maoism as already firmly established and its limits already reached, and feel the need to move beyond these perceived limits. Maoists would argue that the limits cannot yet be realized because Maoism has yet to establish a world historic revolution. To apply this mode of thought to another scientific field, this would be like saying that we must move past quantum physics before we even realize the full scope and limitation of the models of quantum physics. Marxism-Leninism, however, has been fully explored, fully tested. There are not only one, but two world historic revolutions under the belt of Marxism-Leninism, the Bolshevik Revolution and the Chinese Revolution. And it was in the unfolding and decline of the Chinese Revolution where the limitations of Marxism-Leninism became fully recognized. More will be discussed on anti-revisionist Marxism-Leninism in a future episode. It is important to note that opposition towards revisionism is vital to the international communist movement, but without adopting the updated revolutionary framework of Maoism, the limitations of anti-revisionist Marxism-Leninism will remain the limitations of Marxism-Leninism as a whole. And there are a number of anti-revisionist Marxist-Leninists who adopt Maoist principles without calling themselves Maoists. This is due to a myriad of misconceptions or purely an aesthetic dislike of Maoism as a name, while not necessarily disregarding its principles. However, the denial that Maoism constitutes a third and higher stage of Marxism fails to recognize how Maoism has fully exposed and analyzed the limitations of the Chinese Revolution and seeks to rectify these errors by advancing revolutionary theory beyond the limitations of Marxism-Leninism. Maoist philosophy. One of the chief ways in which Maoism has advanced beyond the limits of Marxism-Leninism is in its development of revolutionary philosophy. In dialectical and historical materialism, Maoists elaborate and further developed an analysis of contradiction, discussed in episode 3. Maoists also developed the ideas on how socialists derive knowledge and practice, and how best to refine and advance their practices. Political economy. Maoists also advanced Marxism in terms of political economy with an analysis of the form capitalism assumes in the imperialized world, that of bureaucrat comprador capitalism, with insights into neo-colonial structures in the semi-colonial, semi-feudal world being developed into the idea of new democracy. The new democratic model became the model of revolution, particularly within the imperialized world. Scientific socialism. Finally, Maoists also further developed scientific socialism itself, with insights such as the continuation of class struggle under socialism leading into the acceptance and necessity of cultural revolution. Ideas such as the mass line seek to directly link the vanguard party of the revolutionary masses to the working class to rectify issues of petty bourgeois consciousness within the party, and the emergence of a bureaucratic intelligentsia steering the party towards the capitalist road. Maoists also developed the strategy of people's war in the three concentric circles of the revolution: the Communist Party, the People's Army, and the United Front. All of these concepts will be discussed in future chapters. So that about does it for episode 3.1. Just to recap, we talked about the origins of Maoism and discussed the nuances and various interpretations of when Maoism actually began. We also covered the contributions that Maoists made to philosophy, to political economy, and towards scientific socialism. Thank you very much for watching this episode, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you, King, out.